Hello, welcome to Chick Chat and Chill. I am Laura Fickett, your co-host. I own Fickett Financial Education and Business Coaching, where I love to help people make more money, manage it better, and retain it to build their wealth. And we're going to talk about moving madness. And so maybe if you build your wealth, you can hire people to do the move because nobody likes to move. And so it'll be a lot easier, but we'll see as we chat about it. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Antoinette.
Hello, I'm Antoinette. I'm the owner of Pixel This, which is a full-service design firm. And I was thinking about what sets me apart from other design firms or, just designers in general, is that I'm fully straight-on artist. So very rare are artist designers. Usually it's a right brain, left brain thing. But that's kind of how I ended up, making my way into Snapple, and nobody else could understand the personality. And if they could draw it, they couldn't design it. So if you're looking for somebody who isn't quite getting your brand and you need more of a full-on approach, I'd happy to help you. Okay, so moving. So I guess we'll start with the story which brought on my moving madness right from the get-go.
Yes, she's still with the madness, but they're almost done with the moving.
Yeah, so I went out with a guy and we hit it off, and I had a move scheduled from Connecticut to Florida. So I had a friend up in Connecticut that was originally going to help me just for a day, something simple. And I was going to have movers, and he was just going to help me with some stuff. But then this guy's like, no, I could really help you. And he asked the third time. I was like, okay, if you're okay with it, that'd be a huge help.
So before we continue, how many dates, Antoinette, are we talking here?
One.
Okay, I'm just want to make sure all the listeners understand the severity of this situation.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes. So she did have me check with the police to verify he wasn't a serial killer. But anyway, we were all on schedule. I had a meeting in the morning, and I was on my way back to my home, and he was going to meet me there, and I was going to text him, and I looked down on my phone, and he decided to cancel the whole entire trip. He was like, sorry, I know it's an inconvenient time, but he canceled.
Shocking. It was so shocking. I don't know how he couldn't invest that time in somebody he's gone out with for we're talking hours here, shocking.
Anyway, but it was funny. So we're driving up, and my mom is the cutest, sweetest little thing in the world. I've never heard her say a curse word in my life. And she's sitting there, and she just goes, I hate to say this, but he's a real scumbag. Can you see that coming out of my little mouth?
You should have recorded that. That would be so cute.
Yeah. So anyway, I get up there, and because of that, I couldn't do the, move yourself type thing. It's just me. I can't lift, I can lift certain things, but things require two people. And my mom is not one of them, put it that way. So,
no.
So then I had to go looking at full service movers for everything, because now even my friend made other plans. So I had to basically go from, doing the majority of the move myself to a full service move. And I didn't have a lot of time to find somebody. So I was unfortunately scrapped for time in calling. So somehow in calling a company, I ended up, I guess, getting on some list of when you're oh, I want a car quote, and you do one of those, and then every moving company on the or car, so it was that. So I was fielding calls from moving companies left and right. So I wanted, I looked up what the top ones were, and those were the ones I wanted to look at. Obviously, there was a moving company I used for a local move in Florida that also said they do
down the
long
coast,
distance, long distance, some other local ones that I know people, I've never used them, but I know the people who work there. So I was like, let me get a bunch of quotes. So, all in all, we'll just say that I picked a company, which in the end screwed me over also. So I was quoted one price. The guy shows up. That I was quoted one price. They were going to pack out everything. We took pictures of everything, like all the statues and sculptures. and they were going to show up with 2 trucks. It was going to be done in one day. They were going to pack everything, even if it took till midnight, and that was it. So the guy shows up with 1 truck, doesn't think he's packing a thing, thinks everything's pre-packed, and doesn't even have boxes. So needless to say, so he's like, well, after a couple calls, he's like, okay, for $2,700, we're going to, pack everything and you'll still all fit in the truck. I'm like, I don't think it's going to fit in that truck. He's like, trust me, it'll fit in the truck. So we went through the whole day. They ended up packing, did a beautiful job packing, beautiful. But they didn't load everything. So when it got to loading, sure enough, it didn't fit on the 1 truck. Then they said they have to come back tomorrow with the other truck. And then magically, the price doubled from everything.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So at this point, they have your
just
stuff.
Thrown your stuff away and
Yeah.
bought new stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. So they have your stuff, and then it was just horrible, like horrible. And, from what I understand, like when I was doing my research, they were saying that's what happens. A lot of people, and I made sure I used somebody, and it still screwed up.
I do have a great moving company in New England.
Aw.
I know.
But this one guy that called me did this. He called, and he's like, "Oh," which I knew it was BS when he said it, but I was like, whatever. He goes, "Oh, we just had a move canceled." He names the town, north of me, and he goes, from this town to Florida, and we have the moving truck already scheduled. He goes, for a deposit, I could hold the truck. And I said, I'm not making a decision till tomorrow. And he goes, otherwise it's going to go back and it's going to be en route, and I can't get you that truck at this rate. He had this great rate. And he goes, if you just give me the deposit, I could hold the truck. You could still do your research and whatever and cancel. I was like, oh, okay. So I did the deposit. Turns out it was completely bullshit.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
apparently she swears more than her mother.
I could have told you that, but but it was terrible. So then turns out they wouldn't do. I looked up the company online. It wasn't even listed with the Better Business Bureau. They had all sorts of things wrong with it. I was looking them up, and it was all the scams. Like they tell you one price, it's not another. They weren't even a moving company; they were a broker. So the deposit you pay doesn't even go towards moving; it's their pockets. It was terrible.
Oh my Lord!
Terrible. And anyone I talk to has a moving horror story. But then I was talking to Alan,
Who records our podcast.
and he had one that I think you should listen to. I thought,
All right. So as far as your moving story is, the key here is don't rely on somebody that you dated for hours. Okay. Just so we're all clear here. Not only does it turn into a moving madness situation, it could turn into a Lifetime movie where we'd be searching for Antoinette right now. Okay. Just so we're clear. And secondly, you got to make sure you have a reputable moving company, or call other people and see who they use to move to Florida. And then maybe that would happen. So those are the lessons learned, because we never want to stop learning. Lessons learned from Antoinette's madness. Now let's see what we can learn from Alan.
I have a lot more madness. So I used to live in the Caribbean, and for some...
And we're all sad for you.
Well, it should be, because I moved back.
Yeah.
That was the mistake. No. So, I had lived in Florida for many, many years. I moved to the Caribbean. And then when I moved back, I was thinking, well, you know what? I want to try a different part of the country. Now, I really didn't know what part, so I said, okay, I want to move to Colorado.
Oh, yes. Nice and warm in the winter.
Yeah, well, so I left, the balmy Caribbean, and I moved to Colorado in February.
Oh.
And
sure, those bikinis handy for warmth.
Then I realized my mistake not long after, the third blizzard, like a week later. So I said, yeah, okay, I'm going back to Florida. I hadn't unpacked. And since I had just shipped everything from the Caribbean to Colorado, I knew exactly what size everything was. I knew exactly how much weight everything was. So no problem. So I contacted a moving company. And I said, okay, I don't remember the weight and the sizes anymore, but I've got X amount and all this. And I said, it's all packed. Nothing's been unpacked. They said, oh, we can fit that in a empty part of a moving van that's coming down from Colorado to Florida. It's got some space left, and that'll fit. Okay, perfect. They gave me a quote. No problem. Let's go. So they come. They pack everything up. It fits just exactly like they said it would. Everything was great. And they leave, and it couldn't have been 10 minutes. Oh. And I get a phone call. And they said, well, we just weighed in. Then there was no weigh station near where I was. But we just weighed in, and it's actually double the weight that you told us it was. And so we have to double the price.
Oh, my.
And I said, no. I've got the weight receipts from when I moved. And they said, well, this is what the scales are saying. This is what we got to go with. And I knew it was a scam. So I contacted the U.S. Department of Transportation because it was going over state lines. And they knew about this company, sadly, and they put me in contact with the FBI. And so...
This is not going in a positive direction.
No, this is a moving story. They never do.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I get in contact with the FBI, and the FBI in the Florida branch gets a U-Haul. And on the day that this moving truck, they had me agree and everything to the demands because they were going to put my stuff in storage somewhere, and if I didn't pay within 30 days, they were going to auction all my stuff off, which I should have let them do. But so they had a U-Haul at my house, and then the moving van pulls up, and the FBI tells the guys to take the stuff out of the moving van and put it in the U-Haul. And then they took and they held that truck there. Then they took the U-Haul to, I think it was the Flying J truck stop up in St. Augustine, and weighed the U-Haul. And it was exactly the weight that I said it was.
Of course.
So they come back and they, arrest the truck drivers. But while they were gone and the truck drivers were being held, they called their head company down in Miami. So when the U-Haul was weighed and they found everything was a scam, FBI in Miami goes to the headquarters down there. Actually, it was near Miami. It wasn't in Miami. Anyway, they go to the headquarters there, and everybody was gone. The place was empty.
Oh.
And they find a lot of the people, but the head guy that owned the company went back to it was either Iran or Iraq.
Oh, if it was the Caribbean where you originally moved from, this would be amazing.
Oh, yeah, that would be, I'd be in on that. I'd track him back down.
It was his neighbor.
Yeah. Well, the thing was that they were taking this extra money that people were giving them because they didn't want to lose their stuff and funneling it over to the Taliban.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Right?
So they did all these arrests and everything, and the truck drivers and everybody, they got 18 months, and we broke up a Taliban funding ring.
Can you believe that?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, that actually happened.
Well, listen, you know what? Like, people that are listening are not going to want to hire movers. I have some of my friends are excellent movers. I think you need to do the research, look for a referral, somebody that's actually used the mover before. Talk to that person, and maybe that's how we avoid these scams, because those are two scams. One is a scam, and one is like FBI scam, like.
Yeah, there's different levels.
Those are different levels. I don't have anything that compares to that. Like, I mean, we broke some stuff and we sweat it out, but we've always moved ourselves. So.
But I think there was a lot of points that I think both of you mentioned that I think will be good for the listeners to. So first, like, if a mover breaks something and they're like, oh, we're fully insured. They're not insured for the value of your property. It's a per weight thing. So for example, if if you have little hand weights that weigh 60 pounds, it's a certain percentage of 60 pounds and you'll get, $30. Or if you have a 60-pound Monet painting, you'll get that same exact dollar amount. It doesn't matter what the value is, but by
you
weight.
have to have your own insurance on your valuables.
And a way to kind of help with insurance is if you call your home insurance policy, if you're a homeowner, and just tell them, ask them that you want movers insurance. You may have it as part of your policy, or for a smaller fee, you can add it as an add-on. And that's a really helpful way to insure your stuff. So that's tip number 1.
Oh, yes. Let's get into positive stuff, because you guys know I don't like the negative stuff. And this is all very negative. Like, now I feel like I want to not move ever again. And I've moved so many times, and I have 4 kids, 3 of them in and out of colleges and in and out of rooms and all kinds of other stuff. And I mean, I don't like moving. And now that my husband bought a pickup truck, like, I'm just like, don't tell anybody that you bought a pickup.
Hey, have Dan come over like 12 times and go next week.
Oh, doesn't your husband have a pickup truck? We're moving. No, he doesn't. It's a Tonka truck that he's bought back. No, but seriously, if you do have friends that have pickup trucks, like, that's very helpful. But downsizing, like I told you, that's a good tip to kind of sort through all your stuff, because you don't want to put some stuff that you've never even, that was in the back of your closet into the back of your new closet.
Yeah.
Like, that makes absolutely no sense. You know, if you are going to hire a moving company, like I said, make sure it's a referral from somebody that you know, check references, make sure they're reputable. Because I know a guy up in New England that's an excellent mover, like, some top-notch professional, maybe a little bit more expensive, but in the end, those scammers are going to be even more expensive.
Yeah.
They're going to be twice as much. So if it looks expensive in the beginning, but it really, in fact, is one price, you might want to go with them. But short term, like we were talking about, these are big moves that they were talking about. A lot of times you're just moving like across, you know, maybe counties or short moves like that. And so, like, I have kind of like, my daughter moved from one college to another, and we have like a little, things happen, I guess, when you move. Her friend was going to move as well, and she got 2 flat tires before we were going to move. And I'm like, what? And so that like delayed the move. Sometimes like your plans to move get delayed for whatever reason, car repairs, or like you're not ready, or all kinds of stuff. And I think what you need to do is just kind of relax. And what I didn't do, and you guys have heard me say this before, I never asked God for help when I was moving. Like, and so I always think of like the Old Testament where they moved the tabernacle without asking for his help, and then it almost fell, and then the guy that touched it actually ended up dying because he touched the tabernacle. And so if you don't know that story, it's invigorating. Read the Old Testament. But I always think, like, ask for help, not just from your friends and your neighbors and people from pickup trucks, but ask for help, like in moving. Did you ask God for help when you were finding a moving company?
I did.
You did?
Yeah. But the one thing that I did that I was so grateful was just kind of on a whim. I'm like, you know what? Let me get a dumpster.
Oh, yes.
So again, I figured as we're going through stuff, if I see something that I know I don't want to move, I could just toss it, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I got a 12-yarder. In retrospect, I probably should have got a 30 because I had to pay overage on the 12-yard. Everything. The movers made so much mess that you don't even realize, just from the amount of like tape rolls and you know what I mean? And they're leaving it at your house, and I was leaving in a car. I can't. There's only so much I could do. It's not garbage day. It's not like, what am I going to do? You know? So
yeah, dumpster is important because you do have a lot of trash left.
Yeah.
After
And then
moving.
The other thing that I thought was interesting, which I learned, they said we cannot move any liquids. So, for example, I have in my garage, I have these huge, they're like file cabinets. They're 2 feet deep by 3 feet wide, and they're made of metal. And like each drawer holds like 300 pounds. They're insane. So they're great garage storage. But I packed my whole pantry in there, and like all, you know, cleaning supplies and all that. And they're like, we can't take liquids.
Like nothing? Like not even like olive oil?
No, they literally. So again, a lot of that stuff had to go in the dumpster, and I was just like crying because I'm like, you know, like, you know, to sit there and throw
olive oil.
No, I love this olive oil. No, but there's like, you know, like I had champagne, I had expensive wines, like all of that.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that was a surprise for me.
It's probably because if it breaks during moving, then it could ruin a whole.
I totally understand the thought process behind it. And then the things you both brought up is when you're moving within the state is very different when you're crossing state lines. So when you're crossing state lines, then it's over the Department of Transportation and other rules apply and stuff like that. So usually when it's
especially for weapons.
Well, new different podcast, but
just putting it out there.
But I'm back and haven't been arrested. So, what was I going to say? But it's good. So if you're doing like, between states and moving, across to several states, you can look up more stuff on this company. Otherwise, they're, regulated by the state. But you could look, make sure they're on the Better Business Bureau. Make sure they have an actual website. Make sure their trucks aren't like unmarked, where they're just, who knows if they're a legitimate company.
Make sure they're not affiliated with the Taliban.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah.
But then, Alan brought up the whole weight thing, and they said a lot of these trucks, they can hold like 1,000 gallons of gas or something like that, or ridiculous amounts of gas that when weighed, if they weigh it on an empty tank and then put your stuff in, then add the gas, all of a sudden your weight goes up by 1,000 pounds. And so always take a picture of their gas tank when they're arrived. Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that either.
So that's a good tip.
How about self-moving? Like, have you moved yourself?
I have. I've done that too. I would have loved to do that.
Because that's more like a lot of people self-move, right? I mean, you can't self-move it's not like you can drive from the Caribbean to Colorado. Not that anybody would do that anyway, even if you could. Who moves from the Caribbean to Colorado, really? Anyway, that's what I took out of that story. But
Nobody would have a brain
for
to
those
do
of you
it.
listening in Colorado's beautiful, but it's like two very different temperature zones we're talking about here.
You got to like ease into it.
You got to like slowly. Could have gone to maybe Mississippi first or something. I don't know, like just make your way over to coldness.
It was like ripping off the Band-Aid
In
and
February.
then it started bleeding out.
Maybe could have done it in August. Anyway, but most people do self-moving.
Yeah.
And so self-moving, the one thing that I learned that is, I think, fantastic is people don't know where to start, right? Like where do I start packing? Boxes, and if you're hiring a truck, boxes and all of that kind of stuff is great. If you are not hiring a truck and you're going to move with your own vehicle, like cars and SUVs and things like that, well, boxes, not Tetris over here, like boxes don't fit into places perfectly. You might also need like bags that can be like smushed for softer things like linens and towels and clothes. And one thing, the way I moved my clothes from my closet, it was fantastic. So what you do is like you zip tie the hangers together, and then you just take a trash bag and you put it over all of them, kind of like a garment bag, and you tie it up on the bottom, and then then you're done. Then when you have to zip tie, because those hangers, they'll go crazy. But then when you just hang them back up, like it's fantastic.
I found that the couple things that I found were inexpensive ways to, whether you're self-moving or, using a company, are those moving bags. Like you could get those on Amazon or any other place, but they're super cheap and they're huge. They're like really big. So if you've like linens and stuff like that.
Suck the air out?
No. So they come like really flat, like this big. And then when you open it up, they're huge. Like you could put a couple comforters and pillows, and then it just all zips. You don't run the air out, but they're great to fit around stuff, or if you're using in between furniture, if you need something soft. And you could get like a pack of 10 for like $30. I mean, it's really, really cheap. And the other thing is with boxes. So when I was looking at boxes, I went to a couple different, U-Haul or a couple of these storage facilities that they have, like, whatever. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Has
like storage, whatever. They have boxes. So I was looking for some just general. I want to get a bunch of the same size so I could stack and, rather than having all different sizes. And when I looked, like these, paper ones were, basically like $6-7 for a medium size box. And then somebody told me they were having a sale at, one of the hardware stores that they were doing those plastic storage bins for $7. So I went and bought 20, and I could use these, and they still stack, and so much better than a cardboard box, which is so flimsy. Like, you can only go so high. So that helps, especially when you're putting it in a truck that's 8 feet high or something like that. That was a big tip. And then the other, I think, tip I have is just, if somebody's going to quote, I would give yourself enough time that you can switch companies if they show up and start playing games, but also have them come in and do a video of your stuff, because sending pictures or doing verbal agreements, and you videotape it as well. They could do the video, but you videotape them as well with everything in there, and then they can't say they didn't see it. There was more than whatever,
Yeah, moving can be expensive. It's crazy. And it can be super stressful. But hopefully the place that you're moving to is a wonderful place. And so try and focus on that and try to be as little stress as possible in the whole. If you break something, if you're moving yourself, this was huge for me. If you're moving yourself and you're saving thousands of dollars from a moving company, then, I'm a fan of paying myself, right? So if I broke something because I moved it myself, like a television or whatever, well, you save $4,000, just buy a new TV.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to move something, just donate it. And then when you get to the new place, rebuy it. Because think about how much money that you saved by doing the move yourself, and treat yourself to maybe some new
I
things.
did that when I was moving out of this huge house, and I donated, no kidding, 6 box trucks of stuff to a charity.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
donate.
it was
They'll come and
lawn
pick it up,
furniture. How do you wrap and store lawn furniture? I'm by the time I've already just bought lawn furniture. If I was storing it, so I was like, this makes no sense.
We have to wrap this up quickly, but one last tip is that they do have those storage bags for mattresses.
Those are great.
Yes, you have to do that. You have to buy storage bags for mattresses, because you don't want those things to get dirty, and then you're going to have to sleep on them or whatever. And then you can use duct tape to make handles on the side of the mattresses, so that you actually have handles to carry an awkward item like a mattress. So that was a huge thing that I learned from one of my friends. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But last words
time.
before we're out of time. What's our next topic?
So the next one is life lessons that we learned, some pretty good
We
things
made some
from.
mistakes.
And then
what did we learn from them?
Yeah. So that should be good.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you made any mistakes in life.
I feel like next week's going to be like me going to confession, and you're going to be like, go outside and say 10 arpa,
I don't believe in that. So no, God will listen to our conversation and he will forgive you as long as you repent. You don't need to go do any kind of crazy stuff. But I've made plenty of mistakes myself, because life's all about mistakes. There's not a year that goes by that I don't make one. And
it'll be hard to choose.
Yeah. We're going to choose some juicy ones for you.
Yeah. It should be a good topic. But until then, we're so glad you joined us, and never stop laughing.
And never stop learning. We'll see you soon. I don't know.